Some of the things that people post and some of the things that people do are related to wanting to be liked. It is nice when you put an opinion out and it's validated by loads of people. It's not nice when you put an opinion out and you get one like off your mum.
This isn't now just reserved for celebrities or those leaders. It's people are building that before they've even built a business now.
But because it's there, everyone now feels like a pressure, especially within business, to be a creator in some way, shape or form. It's very easy to try copy what somebody else does, but you're never gonna win long term in that. And really try to figure out what you can bring to the table as like uniquely you as best as you can in that moment.
These days, CEOs have gone from nameless suits to influential celebrity leaders. And when we think of big personalities in the context of business, they all have one thing in common: charisma. Some call it the X factor, but whatever the definition, we can all usually agree when someone has it, and when they're more boring than a falafel wrap. In this episode, we wanted to explore how important charisma is when it comes to business and leaders. Is it something you're just born with? Can it be taught or even faked? We're joined by the perfect guest to help us answer those questions. Ash Jones is the founder of personal branding specialists Great Influence, and he's the mastermind behind some of the new wave of industry leaders, including Steven Bartlett, Neville, and Carrie Rose. And we asked him why his clients value personal brands so much. Do they put themselves out there because it helps them build businesses and gain power and influence in their sector, or is it more to do with ego and fame? And we talk about managed personal brands and why they sometimes can go wrong. Ash had some really interesting thoughts and stories to share, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too.
So Ash, you work with some of the most influential leaders in the UK. Why do you think they put so much importance on their own personal branding?
It's always been a thing, like having a high profile is important in any kind of walk of career. Social media comes along and makes it 100 times more not important, but people are just way more aware of it now. Then you've got like 2015, 16, Instagram and influencers happen. And now that is like TikTok and the creator kind of explodes. It's not something new. You know, there's been business people that have written books for decades and that is like, or doing PR and profiling and things like this. But social media and the rise of like influence online has probably made it 100 times more of a pressing or just something people are aware of more.
Because now social media, people they see you every day and there's multiple platforms. It's just, you're still doing exactly the same thing, but you're just doing more of it, but just not at the same kind of, when I say scale, it's not like, so releasing a book was like a big thing. You might release a book every 2 years or whatever, and you might do then PR tour promoting that book. Where now it's almost like you can talk in real time to your audience. And I think that's why it looks like it's far more important now, or it's more popular now, only because it's the pure volume of it. And then also the number of people doing it. This isn't now just reserved for celebrities or those leaders. It's people are building that before they've even built a business now. They feel like that's an important step to building a brand, building a business. Where the other way, in my mind, it was the other way around. Like if you think back to, say, business in the early noughties, it would be Richard Branson would be someone that you'd see doing all this stuff, and he'd be, you know, in the newspapers and doing sort of stuff. It was like only reserved for the absolute elite in business. Now it's almost like, oh, to be like that person, you've got to do the things that he does, so everyone's doing it.
I think there's a bit of that. Do you reckon it's also endorphin led as well? And because a lot of people do it because it feels good. Like we have a lot of people who who build personal brands and put all their opinions out online, and I always say to people, well, what the fuck are you doing it for? Like, because what you've just put out there doesn't mean anything. It's not bringing anything for your business, so why have you done it? And no one can really explain that to me. Everyone either gets pissed off at me for saying it, or they haven't really got an explanation as to why they did it. So it's to me, I think a lot of it's led. We're all still kids at the end of the day as well, right? And popularity is big for kids. When you're not popular or you're an in-betweener, you remember it at school. People always have bad experiences about how I was bullied or I was bottom of the pile or I wasn't popular, I didn't have many mates, right? We all kind of need it. I think it's an extension of that, some of it. Some of the things that people post and some of the things that people do are related to wanting to be liked.
Childhood trauma.
And I think it is. I think it is. I think some of it is. And I think we've all been guilty of it. It is nice when you put an opinion out and it's validated by loads of people. It's not nice when you put an opinion out and you get one like off your mum.
It's dopamine, isn't it? It's just dopamine.
It's dopamine, yeah. Exactly. So there's an element. I'm not saying it's not valuable. It is valuable, but I think there's a bit of a crossover here where people are wanting big personal brands or loads of attention online, but not really knowing what it's for without a purpose.
I think it's a good point.
The interesting thing to me about it is like the way that I see it, like the people that we work with, I don't see the job that we do as any different from like a musician or an athlete, in that they do the same thing. It's all about like trying to raise their profile and make them more popular. But none of those worlds refer to it as personal brand.
Do you think now then, sort of business people now, like running these companies, are they like modern day celebrities? Like there's musicians, athletes, entrepreneurs. Is that like
there's an element of it, yeah, surely, yeah. But like that, like
Gary Vee, he's probably like a celebrity businessman, right?
He definitely is. But like Asher said, the point there that you just said, like, isn't it interesting how athletes and that don't call it personal branding?
Yeah, what do they call it?
It's just fucking...
It's not got a name.
It doesn't have a name, yeah. It's not a thing.
It's just what they do, and there's record labels, and there's sports management companies, and they're all working to raise the profile of the people they
I guess
work
there's
with.
strategy behind it though, right? To get a sponsorship deal, or there's got to be strategy why they want to be in the media still, if you're an athlete. Or do you think it's just a byproduct of you actually did something interesting, so news shares it anyway?
I don't think there's like one thing that they go for. I think it just helps. All the activity that they do kind of powers everything else. So like, take an athlete, them on the field, them off the field, everything that they do is all powering like multiple things in their career. It's like helping them get a better contract. It's helping them get commercial deals. It's helping them get PR, and the things they do on social are helping achieve this. And I don't think there's like a one goal. There's lots of different layers, and all the layers are kind of working towards helping other bits, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I see it. I think personal brand is like this really interesting. I feel like it's natural for especially in like the marketing industry and the business industry, to need a term for something. You say there's no gatekeeper anymore to anyone doing anything on social. So in the same way, you've got like, half of my team are on TikTok, but it's just them and the friends. There's a lot of people who are just on TikTok, and then some kind of rise above and make it, and people care. But everyone's kind of creating now. Yeah. And I think the personal brand thing is somewhere, I think it leans more to the people who are creating for maybe the first time, or they're not, if you took all social media away, they probably wouldn't go after writing the book like a Richard Branson. They probably won't go after the traditional things, but because it's there, everyone now feels like a pressure, especially within business, to be a creator in some way, shape or form. Or they're just like, why wouldn't I? It's free access to something that they're looking for.
It can be free access unless you're shit. I always ask people that when they come in for personal brand, and I always say, well, what are you doing at the minute? I'm posting this, and most people can't answer the question why. Or I say, what are you getting from it? And they say, nothing. Yeah, but nothing. And I say, well, why haven't you changed it then?
Do you think that's because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of noise from people that haven't actually achieved anything in business or ever had to sell a product that solves us a problem?
Yeah.
The only thing they've built is
personal brand.
I've been seen by a lot of people on LinkedIn. You need to turn up every day. You need to be frequently posting. You need to be consistent, all these things. Yeah. So they're following the advice of somebody that hasn't actually achieved anything in proper business, in my opinion.
Well, we get the same thing, and it might offend some people. Don't give a shit. But we get a lot of people coming in, and they go and they've tried that whole personal branding thing with a personal branding coach before. We know it's just a single coach who's built a big profile online. Yeah. And now seems to think that they can tell everyone else how to do it as well. And all they do, because they don't understand marketing and they don't understand the basics of marketing, and every audience is different and everybody has to have a different approach and the strategy has to be different. All they give them is a almost like a cookbook. These are my templates. Post a selfie, post a post like this that has to be emotive about what I've had for dinner or how I feel about someone's rights or whatever the fuck it is. And then off you pop. And then what will happen is you'll get loads of leads in like me. And then they tried that approach and they come to us going, it didn't work. I tried everything they said. I did everything they said to the letter and it didn't work. It didn't work because you're not them. They're not marketers. They don't understand how to market themselves. And growing a social media account to big numbers doesn't give you the right to then go, I'm a good marketer.
Yeah.
You don't have the basic understanding of marketing.
Strangely enough, relate a lot of thinking to like if this was the music industry.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a musician then, like, you know, the personal brand thing. A musician should just be a musician. It's not often that you get a musician then trying to like sell the art of how to be a musician. The record label does that, and the musician stays a musician. They might do songwriting for other people and all that kind of thing, but they don't typically get into the business of then helping other people become musicians.
And they also don't try and game the system either. They don't go. They might create a persona or whatever, but they're not trying to create a persona based on someone else's rule book. I'm a musician. This is who I am. This is my music. This is what I'm expressing. And then people either buy into that or they don't. Whereas in the business world, it's like, I want to create a personal brand. Here's somebody who's created a personal brand. That's their playbook. I'll follow that. And then wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's nothing authentic about it. There's nothing real about it. So
I almost didn't start Great Influence because I thought that obviously I'd been at Social Chain and worked with Steve, and that was all I knew. I thought this. You're just not going to find another Steven Bartlett. Like, I've not met any of them. So, and you need that to be able to do what, you know, if I was to try do some of the work that we did again, you'd need someone like that. So I almost didn't go into doing it because I kind of, that point that you're making there.
I remember like, when we first met and you said, I'm never going to have my own business.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I felt that way because even though I got into it, and the first 2-3 years, I maybe didn't listen enough to that advice. But you kind of come to realize over time that it, you know, what we were saying before about really trying to work on strategy and positioning, we would maybe, you know, year one when you're trying to figure out for the first time, you're just doing the work and you kind of figure out the people afterwards and then the work gets better. Whereas now we're really trying to figure out the people and then taking that. So I was right. I could never have repeated the trick because it's impossible. Well, you can do it, but it doesn't work, does it?
Do you think Steven Bartlett had some raw materials that most people haven't got and that's why he went on for the success? Do you think that's a template that other people couldn't follow and get the same results?
Yeah, like he has something that I've not seen in anyone else.
And is it that like X factor charisma that you can't quite put a name?
You can't articulate it. I'm going to see Robbie Williams tonight. Why is Robbie Williams playing the arena? It's like you can't articulate what it is. He's just Robbie Williams. It's rare that people have that. And I think there are things that you can learn from it, but I don't think you can literally lift and repeat. You can, but the ceiling is really low in terms of the results. So it's like you have people who are innovators and then you have people who will imitate the innovator. And the annoying thing that people find about this happens in business when they're like, they copied our work. But what you'll find 9 times out of 10 is that the ceiling for their results are way lower than yours as the innovator.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like that, where it's like you could copy and just try repeat the trick, but you're never going to have the number 1 podcast in the country.
Yeah.
I do think the things you can learn, though.
We might. I think we'd be number 2, to be honest.
Do you think Mike has the X factor?
No, I think we're 17. Yeah. The 17th most popular marketing podcast in Finland.
Yeah.
Said,
when we first met,
X factor?
So this.
I've got the X Factor. I've got a hat in there. Is that all I need? Put the Steve Bartlett's hat on and you made it.
But it's like you can't articulate what it is. And it's like when we first met, I walked into Pen and Pencil and I was like, oh, there's that guy. And it's just not in a negative way.
40-stone face.
But there's just something that you can't articulate about what it is. Personality, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the people that really stand out in business, sports, music, whatever, are the people with the most personality most of the time.
Yeah. So my argument's always been that, right? My argument, and I've said this on there, if you've got the personality of a falafel wrap, you're going to struggle to grow a decent personal brand unless
100%.
Unless someone who doesn't have the personality of a falafel wrap writes for you.
Yeah.
Right. But and that's why you get a lot of LinkedIn ghostwriters. So they but the problem with that is, like we said before, is you can go and write for someone, create them this great personal brand, and they go and meet someone in a sales meeting, and they go, "What the fuck? They've not got the same aura that you do online, right?" So you can trick it to a certain point, like you said, but this is the problem. And is that half your battle then for your business, finding the right people? Because do you have to reject a lot of people?
1 out of every 100 leads we might work with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We need more leads, Ian.
Could you send the 99? Send the 99 to hello at
We need more leads.
Studio.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that though, how you position it, because when I look at your client list and there's some big names on there, it kind of makes me think that you could probably have people queuing up and waiting to be on a waiting list for when you do want to work with people.
Yeah.
And it also means as well, you can charge premium and you attract the creme de la creme, is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because of, everyone wants to be like Steve Bartlett or
What's your
Gary
checklist?
Neville.
What's your checklist then? If someone comes into you and says, I want a personal brand building by great influence, what's your checklist? How do you know whether they're
Yeah,
right?
we have one.
Yeah. How do you know whether they're right? What you ask?
There's like a bunch of different signals to do with like what they've done so far from a like profiling perspective. We're basically trying to look whether there's traction there from like, is the scale in this person? Either they've got scale already, and we've worked with people who have millions of followers on TV, on it, like they've got scale. And then if they're a bit earlier, is that scale there? Like, I don't know, have they been covered in like national press, and was that a bit of a one-off, or was this, like you can look for, even if it's not there yet, you can almost see is the signals in what they've done that maybe indicate it's on the way. And then also, do we feel it at the same time? Yeah.
Because taking on someone that it doesn't work for, or someone that doesn't meet that criteria, could possibly damage your reputation and your brand, right? Or not? Or is that not really important at this stage?
It's important, but I've never thought that. Or probably stupidly. But I kind of think of it like, you're a football fan, right? You support Everton.
Everton, yeah.
So Pep Guardiola, and he says, he's like, people herald him as this great manager, and he's like, I can't do it unless I've got £50 million players. We can't do what we're good at if we don't have... We can, but it's kind of like...
That's like the ceiling again, right? You could only take them from... It's easier to take someone from good to great than it is to take someone from no experience.
And it's almost like a shame of what... And I had to learn this in business as well, where I feel like, again, like the music analogy thing, I feel like my experience working with Steve was that I was when you go and make a record, like I went and made one, and there was a producer and an engineer, and the producer is the one who's like the visionary, leading the way, and the engineer is kind of sitting there doing the bits in the background and kind of pulling bits together and all that. And I felt like I was an engineer in like the Steven Bartlett thing, like personal brand. And he was the producer. And coming out of that, I then was like, right, I'd like to be a producer now, but I'm an engineer. And like any engineer who wants to be a producer would, you go work your way literally from the ground up and, make your mistakes, get it wrong, get it right. And then you get like commissioned to do, this quite good band. And you're like, oh, we're getting there, and then start working your way up. And
who were your first few clients then with great influence?
A guy called Nathan Priestley was first client, and he runs a construction business in Leeds.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? So how you would build his personal brand, it's construction. That'd be a very different thing to say if you were building the personal brand of almost like a celebrity. Like, I imagine the kind of content you'd put out for him would be very different to the stuff you'd put out for Gary Neville.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Oh, really?
It's started Great Influence June 2018, and I was doing that kind of work for like 9 months, and I got to this point and I was like, I just don't know if this is going to work because it's not working. And it was only when we started working with the people who it was right for that it started working.
So it was that experience that maybe made you create this checklist then, if we need certain things to make what we do work very well. Do you think?
I think that's like a hindsight learning rather than something we were aware of at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's, it's like anything, like you're both really good at what you do and you have a team who are really good at what you do. And it's almost like a shame if you're not living up to the best that you can do as a team.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're an engineer?
How did I become Mike Winnett's team?
Exactly.
What have I done with my personal brand?
Shit tattoos is on this checklist, and if you've got a chance of being a client.
What about if someone's done something wrong? So say I'd like touch the dog, right?
Yeah.
Dan, have you touched the dog?
Right, let's get
Hypothetically.
let's get
Wink.
maybe.
The animators are rubbing their hands.
Say if I stop it. So say if I'd touched the dog, right, and I was in trouble, but it's not career ending. But everyone knows I touched the dog. You know, I've not touched any staff. I've not done anything like that.
Please stop saying
my career's going downhill. Right? Have you ever? Is that something that you could do? Like, as in, take someone who has influence and like say scale, but
rebuild,
turn it round for them, like almost rescue their career.
Is something about to come out next week? I've got this feeling. If something really bad happens in the next 10 days and some news comes out,
let's see what Ash says first. I'll let you know.
We haven't, but you could.
Yeah.
Because it's all just like...
Because sports management companies do that.
Yeah. Reputation management and shifting, PR and, trying to recover people's profile and things like that. So you could, we just haven't. But I think we've done similar where we've had to shift someone's identity or extend their identity, where it's like they're known for one thing and the truth is that they actually do a couple more, but they're only known really for the one thing.
Yeah.
But these other couple are really, really important to the rest of their career.
Yeah.
But nobody knows that they do them. So they come to us to help them bring that bit up, if that makes sense. So it's the same thing, isn't it? It's like repositioning and...
Yeah. Because we get brands that come to us all the time to do it because they think for some reason that Offended can pull them out of shit because they had a shit product.
Right.
All the customers are complaining about it. What can we do for them? So we've had quite a few.
If it was me personally in that situation, in any situation where my reputation was damaged, I personally, and this isn't like a thing that, somebody else, I might advise something different. But for me personally, if I had the choice, I'd always try to like own it or be honest about it. I've never seen anyone fail being honest.
Well, unless you touch dogs.
Unless you touch dogs, yeah. But I had a friend who, he had a business and he had built a bit of a name for himself, and then the business kind of went a bit south and ended up getting liquidated, and somebody did a bit of an exposed thing on something else, but using his tale as like the point of the story. And he had two choices in that moment, like come out and deny or try to like blame someone else or this or that. And he did the opposite. And it was like, it just completely, and it also he had to do a bit of work himself because his first thing was to come out firing and defend and protect as you would with your own reputation. And I think after a couple of days,
he's Manchester based, this company.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling I think I know who this might be actually.
And after a couple of days, he kind of like, self-reflection was able to come out and kind of own the things that had gone wrong and the respect that he got out of coming out and just being honest in public, but also in private when people have said to me afterwards. So that kind of influenced my own thinking on what I would do in a similar situation.
We always say that. I've always said that. I say whatever comes out from my past, I'm just the offended way is just to own it.
Yeah,
it's the only way you can. You're just gonna have to own it. Everybody knows you've done it. You can't. It's not like old school where you can cover stuff up.
Yeah, it
spreads far too far and wide on social media to be able to limit the damage.
I think it's nice as well in like an era where, especially in business, so much is about like, in the same way Instagram was the same. So much is about showing the best life. Especially in business, you're always trying to show the best life and make things look great. To actually come out and be honest is probably more respected. Yeah.
And it works. And it works as well. That honesty works. It's just trying to get other brands to realise it does. We proved it with a billboard campaign talking about people slagging us off. Yeah. And a recruitment ad campaign talking about basically the realities of working in a marketing business. Some parts are shit. So I think there's a new wave of thought there, and we're proving that it works, and the results are proving themselves. I'll be honest, I was nervous about both those campaigns, and I wasn't sure whether they would work. I think it's the same for an individual. There has to be people can see through everything nowadays, and everyone, particularly in the UK, we're all fucking skeptical.
Just to go back to an earlier point, two earlier points. One,
the dogs.
Definitely not the dogs. We've covered dogs, and you've touched dogs extensively in this podcast so far. to go back to what you said earlier, Dan, I think there's still a confusion of why somebody who, to the general public, has made it. So, you know, you've been a professional footballer or whatever, why you'd still want to be on social media pushing yourself and your opinions and your views. Is that just human nature?
Yeah, I think some people just really enjoy it. It's genuinely something they find interesting, and you leave them to their own devices, take everything away apart from the phone and every purpose away, and they still kind of do it because they just enjoy doing it.
Dan, do you think if you soul defended, you sat on a boat in the Caribbean?
I'm gone, mate. I'll go and sit in the Caribbean, and I'll just wind people up there instead.
Would you be online?
I'm really. I say this repeatedly, and people don't believe me. The reason I post, I don't like social media. I don't update on Instagram a lot unless I'm pissed. And that's because my inhibitions have all gone. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any other social media. I have LinkedIn because I've grown a business on it. I do other people's social media.
Yeah.
But with a purpose. LinkedIn, the reason I post once a week, max, is because I know that's if I do a quality post that bangs once a week, I know I'll get 5 decent leads and I will probably close one. And I know it'll continue the business growing at the rate it has done. That's all I'm interested in. Once I've sold offended, I'm not doing it for any other purpose. I don't give most of my opinion. This is the thing that people don't realize on LinkedIn. Most of my opinions and most of the things I do, I only half believe. I do them because I've seen somebody else get wound up by it. Or I've seen a lot of that stuff that I post, I do on purpose to wind people up because I know it'll bring people to the table. All I'm basically doing is lighting the fire. I let everyone else burn themselves. Yeah. I don't actually give a fuck about my own opinion half the time because unless it's the people that are close to me or the people that matter, I couldn't care less what your opinion is.
I think there's a bit of a thing where, and this ties into the personal brand thing, where doing those actions is really useful at times for business. And therefore, it kind of it's a good idea for a lot of people to be taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
But it also crosses over with what we were talking about before, about like a musician and athlete and all that kind of thing. I think that only exists in business where it's like, if the leads thing wasn't there, the majority of people wouldn't do it. You'd just be left with the Steven Bartletts of the world, who are personalities that people find interesting with audience and scale and all this kind of thing. And some people cross over. You've probably both crossed over from one almost to the other.
You say this, but the last couple of people we had on here talking about personal brand, I'd never fucking heard of us. Well, they did it about you. I think I'm only known even from Warrington, no one knows me really.
Sometimes people just think I'm you.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is all,
I'm a shit version of you, is what I get told quite a lot. Yeah.
Just carry on that point, Ash. I think Gary Vee once got asked the question, why don't you just go and sit on a beach and chill out?
I want to be on a beach in Mexico instead of being on an office in Sweden in cold November.
And I think his answer, in his sort of hustle porn kind of way, was the very fact that you're visualizing yourself sat on a beach is the reason you'll never get there in the first place.
The best way to make money is to make less money than you're making now, enough to still live, because you got to live, around something that does interest you because you wake up 8 years later and something good is actually happening.
These people have got something in them that drives them forward that the majority of us perhaps haven't. No. And that's why they get there instead.
No, that's bollocks, because that would mean that being outward with your opinions and posting on social media would be critical to any success, and that's fucking nonsense. Just because I sold a business doesn't mean I'd suddenly just stop there and drink cocktails. I'd still have to do something because I'm that sort of personality. So I'd go and write another shit book again that wouldn't get published. Yeah, because I'm 3 novels deep and no one's even had a sniff.
But maybe that is the point, though. Maybe you guys are interested in that spark. Is that intensity that comes with you?
Yeah,
I know I have to do something. I've always got to be doing something. Otherwise, I know I'm dangerous.
I can't sit still. I can't watch a film without annoying Charlotte. I can't do it. I have to be doing something constantly.
It's interesting that you said about footballers and stuff like that. I think it's such an intense and short career that when you think about it, we're saying like, well, why is a footballer's retiring at 35 or whatever? They've got another 30, 40, 50 years to go. So it's weird that people would assume that they would just then all of a sudden sit down. Yeah. The whole life's been managed, right? They've had routine. Take that away from someone. They have to find something. And pushing a personal brand and post online and building businesses and investing in stuff and getting involved in the business side is far less destructive than how I think if you go back sort of 10, 15 years, footballers might own a pub, spend maybe a bit earlier than that, the 80s, 90s, they'd own a pub, they didn't have as much money, and they'd end up being alcoholics or bang into the drugs all the time, and suicide.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't necessarily. I think it confuses people. I'm not confused, but I can see why they do it. The bit that maybe does confuse me is why you would ever live on social if you didn't need to.
Yeah,
I think
because of the hate and all the negativity. I mean, everybody gets some.
You want to come off social,
might be relevant.
Yeah, I want to come off. Yeah.
It might be relevance as well, because I suppose, particularly if you're a footballer and your career ends in your 30s or whatever, then the only way that you're going to keep getting new jobs and pundit jobs and being taken seriously is if you're relevant. The minute you're no longer relevant, no one's hiring you again because someone else is more relevant than you are.
Maybe that comes back to your earlier point about a little bit of ego as well in there, and a little bit of enjoying the attention. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think there's a bit of a melting pot. There's a lot going on with it, why someone would do it. I think it's a bit of a melting pot, and there's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think there's, take like the personal brand thing. I think there's a lot of debate around that at the minute. And the reason for that is like everyone now can kind of go and do it. Therefore, if everyone's doing it, the quality of what is happening is like,
it's been
diluted. It can be really, really low. And it's like watching the X Factor. Where Harry Styles was on the X Factor and has gone on to do what he's done. He was somebody who people found interesting with personality, audience, and scale. But there was also the other 10,000 people that applied that can't sing, but still went on stage and sang and tried.
Walk a tightrope way up high, write your name across.
And everyone went, yeah, we don't like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the gates are open now, and anyone with a social media account can stand on stage and sing, but time and the audience will decide whether you're still there 10 years later, if that makes sense.
Is that low barrier to entry, and that's the same reason as we started off personal branding, and we do very, very little of it now. We work with brands because I can do cool stuff with a brand. I'm pretty confident that no matter how boring the brand, we can grow it. We can do some pretty cool stuff with it. Think outside the box, go completely left of center, and do something fucking mental. Whether you're in a fucking an insurance firm or you created technology to cure cancer, right? But but we've stopped doing personal branding because that's the problem. Everybody wants you to do that for them. Everyone looks at it and goes, "I want you to turn me into one of those accounts, or I want to get the same numbers as you, or I want to be going viral like you." But the reality is, you might not be capable of it.
Yeah, no, you're a producer at the end of the day.
This is what happens,
and
right?
it's the quality of the band that walks in the studio.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think too many people that get rejected don't even get to put through to judges' houses think that they can be Harry Styles or want Harry Styles numbers and Harry Styles results, and that's a problem. But you know why that is a problem? Lots of reasons. Low barrier to entry. But they've been told by anybody that sells these services cheap and at scale that have never really built a business or a brand themselves. They've only been in personal branding 3-6 months. Are telling anybody they can do it, so they can sell their shitty templates for 57 quid or 59 quid. That's why everyone's been told you can be whatever you want now. Yeah. But like you said, Steve Bartlett had something like that's almost intangible. Yeah. Everybody has been told that they can also be that and they can also have that, and they're all following the same copy and paste formula to achieve that thing, and it's bullshit.
So maybe it's just about being more realistic about what you can actually achieve.
Yeah, I said
that's not necessarily throwing it all away and saying
no,
it's not
at all.
And I think Ash, to continue that point you mentioned earlier about the Football League, I guess you're working with Champions League level people, but there's lots of leagues underneath there where people could still compete and enjoy and make a decent career.
Have a good career and make good money.
Be at Wrexham doing PR.
This is my point on. So I posted a rant to wind both sides of the table up last week on they did that fucking list. Saying, you voted in the list. A list that means
what list?
Means absolutely what list, right? And they did that list, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to wind both sides of the table up there because we're all full of shit, and you got the people going, it's all vanity metrics, it's just big numbers, it doesn't mean anything, it's fucking nonsense, right? Which is true, right? It's true, right? If they're the wrong numbers and all you're doing is posting, a kid who's got, like this because this kid's got fucking jaundice in his eyeballs or whatever, and it's not your kid, you've got nothing to do with them, and you get massive likes, and it's not the right people. It's driving nothing. It's a pointless, fucking big pointless channel. You can do that. Most people can do that, right? There are tricks to be able to create those channels. So the numbers are vanity metrics, but then you've got the other side of the coin of if you're getting if you get more of the right numbers, that will generally lead to more of the right leads. It's not rocket science, right? So people go in. Generally, the people crying out that these are vanity metrics and big numbers are the people who are incapable of getting big numbers. Yeah. So they're both wrong, right? But then the other people who get those small numbers, what if you go, why are you trying to post for those numbers? Right, I'm getting 30 likes a post, right? But why? For more leads. Do you get more leads off those 30 like posts? Yeah, I do. Is your business growing faster? Yeah, it is. So what are you whinging about?
It's what fucking difference to make if you're on the list or not.
Yeah. So what? So why are you bothered? So everyone was arguing about just fucking nothing, basically. Yeah. So I just kind of joined in.
I enjoyed it too.
Thanks, mate. yeah. Your little flip was funny, mate.
Well, I think there's like the personal. There you're saying like personal brand people selling the services. There has been like an influx over the past like year or so of people doing it more and more, which you'd understand as it becomes a thing that is just more talked about within marketing. People will go and do that thing. I think a lot of people don't like. I was very fortunate in that I had an experience for 4 years, and that gave me at least a grounding. But I still went out and learned and did all the not great things at first, and then kind of sharpened the tool and all this kind of thing. And I think that's kind of happening now. Like you look at some of the people that are doing it, and a lot of them are quite young as well.
Yeah.
And
it don't matter. Experience in years and age don't matter.
And if they're here in 10 years, then they'll have stuck with it, and it wouldn't have been it's something they're genuinely passionate about and found themselves interested in. It's not been a cash grab thing or something like that. But there's you had Shoaib on here. I've not met him, but he's made like good money for his age and starting out his career, and it's like
I actually was impressed with him.
And I
didn't think I would like him.
I think a lot of people throw things at the whole personal brand thing, and maybe people in that space, and I think for the younger ones especially, it's like whenever, and I've been the same, where if someone was going to get pissed off at it, it'd be someone who's trying to do the good work with the good intention and all this kind of thing. And I've said this before, I think personal branding, when it became like a thing in this country, could have gone one or two ways. You could have had the people from the McCanns and the Saatchis coming into it, and the thinking would have been like, a seriously high level. Yeah. But it's not been like that. And a lot of the time it's people who are cutting their teeth, which has caused a bit of it's caused a bit of a debate. And I don't know, I kind of like try to know that they're just cutting their teeth a bit, and some of them are young. And
do you know where I see sorry, Dan, do you know where I see a differentiate with you? Because you don't do a huge amount with your own personal brand, or you're not doing this off the back of your own personal brand.
Yeah.
So if I was coming to you, I can see exactly what you've done for other people. And I think with a lot of these coaches, they've just done it for themselves. They've just done it for themselves with very specific reason. Yeah. So it'd be like, show me what you've done. How have you sorted out calling the accountants? PR.
But I think I think it's a bit of a moment in time as well. Do you know, like, again, I'm speaking about music, but like in 2006, Arctic Monkeys become the biggest band in the world. And then you get like left, right and centre bands popping up all over the place, these shit indie bands like Pigeon Detectives and all this kind of thing. It was just a moment for guitar bands, and it kind of feels like that. And it'll just be
it'll come full circle again.
You, to me, seem reluctant to be known, seen, and the head of great influence. I don't know if that's my perception of you's wrong, but I think it's spot on. I would say it's only been maybe, like, I've known who you are for a long time, but it's only the last couple of months where I've actually seen you talking more about yourself, and even like more personal stuff that I never thought I'd see you talk about. Like, is that deliberate? Because I've always thought you've shied away from that.
I was most comfortable being behind, like, in Steve's team, and that's my spot. I like being the quiet one in the corner. So it was always, but there is a part of me, like, outside of business, I'm a songwriter and I've always wanted to make records. And part of that, yes, it's the passion for writing the songs. Part of it is also wanting to be in the spotlight. but I also don't want to be in the spotlight at the same time. It's almost like two jarring things.
Rhythm
Do you feel like you
guitars.
need one to help with the other? Like, as in, so you need to be in the spotlight to be known for it. It's like you singer-songwriting. So it's almost like you have to kind of do the bit you don't want to do to get the bit that you do want.
I used to think that I needed to put myself out there. And there's a real like point in time that I can point to where everything before that was me almost like being like, no, you have to do this. And I look at it now and I'm just like, it just doesn't feel like me at all. And then everything that I've done since that moment, it's because I've wanted to do it. Like today, I've not put anything out because I just don't feel like doing it today.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's anything, I've got like notes of things that I've wanted to say, or there's nothing that sometimes it'll just be a real time thought in my head when I'm on a run and I'll be like, oh, okay, and I'll post that. But unless that's there, I don't do it. And I think that kind of perfectly sums up where I'm at with it, where by default, I like to be the person in the corner. I don't like to bring attention to myself, but I do like to put my thoughts out into the world. And that, like the songwriter thing is that I'm essentially doing.
So almost like
do
therapeutic then, really.
Yeah.
Like I'm just getting this out of my head, so it's out there. I'm almost not asked.
Yeah.
And I think
isn't that why you called yourself Mike Winnett though? Why did you?
What the real
in case
reason?
you didn't know. That's not,
even now, sometimes people think that's my real name.
Yeah. So
what's your real name?
Just a random funny story about that. I remember I was trying to check into a hotel in Belfast that someone had booked me into, and they wouldn't let me check in because I had no ideas Mike Winnett. And I was trying to explain like, oh no, it's not a real name.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, I don't get it. This is the booking. We need to see some ID. And I was like, imagine asking Rowan Atkinson for ID as Mr. Bean. That's kind of what you're doing now. I was like, this is me. This is my real passport. I flew here. Look at everything. They're like, no, we can't let you check in. And I was like, what the fuck?
Really?
You don't let me check in.
So you know you didn't get in?
Eventually, I had to phone the people that had booked me in and blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, oh, sorry. I was like, but you booked my flights in my right name. So why have you not booked me in the hotel as the right name? It's fucking mad.
Yeah. But it's been a growth thing for me where I've got to a point now where I'm comfortable. Comfortable is the wrong word because comfortable is almost like you don't want to do it. It's like you're feeling like you need to do it for any reason other than wanting to. And it's the same with songwriting, to be honest. I've been a bedroom songwriter for like 20 years. And then I went in the studio 2 years ago and finally did it.
What sort of music?
Noel Gallagher, Stephen Fretwell, Doves, all that kind of thing. Right. And also a bit of like alt country. I'm a big Ryan Adams fan.
I write songs when I'm drunk. About Charlotte. Wrote one about Minnie, our pug, about her pumps.
Have you got a pug?
Play one on. Yeah, I got a pug.
I've got a pug.
Cost me $2,500.
What has this turned into?
That was 3 times more than mine was.
Taken out the other day. Is this relevant to the business community?
Do you know what's a funny story?
If this was LinkedIn,
I've got one.
Business lessons is this. I'll tell you what the business lesson is, right? If you've got a business and you're a bit short cash, don't have a fucking dog.
I tell you what.
That's your business lesson.
Bruce, my pug Bruce. So there was a moment where I was like, is Great Influence going to work? And we got one client that started to make it work. I got that client because of Bruce.
Oh, wow.
Solid.
So
should I start using the dogs on that? I mean, because my dogs are. You know what? I am going to use them. I'm going to start using them in videos.
There was a video of me and Bruce that went viral. No. It's in the top 200 Reddit posts of all time. He's sat on like a sofa like this, and he's licking my face, and then I turn around and lick him back, and he freaks out.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it did like 50 million views on Lad Bible, all this kind of thing.
Oh, no way.
And that was 2017. And in 2019, when I'm trying to get clients for the first time, I built a list of people that I wanted to reach out to, and I DM'd them with this photo of Bruce. Yeah. And I thought, who doesn't like a cute dog? And I said, the opening line was something like, I made something like this dog got 500 million views. Yeah. Respond to me if you want to know how I can do the same for you.
Oh, nice.
So I sent that out to a bunch of people, and one of them got back to me, and I took it into a whole personal brand. I just used the fact that Bruce got that many views as like, I can help you on your socials, all this kind of thing. And most people ignored. If they ignored, I sent them a photo of Bruce looking really grumpy, saying like, he's not happy, but if you ever want to explore this thing, get back to me. And then one guy got back to me, and he ended up being the first person that helped me like figure out the first piece of it now. So yeah,
that's good. See, it won't work for me because Minnie's like, not the best looking pug in the world. She's cute, but she's got 3 teeth and a breast thing.
What's a good looking dog?
Well, I'll show you Minnie and then you'll be able to decide, mate.
What's interesting there is you said that you actually made a list of people that you wanted to work with.
Yeah.
So this is for great influence, and you've gone, these are the types of people I want to work with, and you've proactively approached somebody.
Yeah.
So they must have had certain criteria and certain characteristics that you thought we could actually do something with you.
Not at that point. I was just like, it was for 6 months of business. I was like, I had $4,000 in the bank when I left Social Chain. And that was the most money I'd ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Well, I've got now.
And
After the dogs.
And I figured out I had about 6 months and I was kind of getting to the end of that 6 months. So I was, you're just trying to get work at first, aren't you?
It's interesting because that's what we did at Learning Heroes. We
Right.
basically made a list of like 200 people that we potentially wanted to work with, and we went after them first.
Yeah.
And it was if they had a certain size business, a certain job role.
Right.
And it was just like, so it was quite interesting how you were doing that on a obviously smaller scale and targeting individuals, where we were doing the same thing with business. So, and obviously great influence has gone on to do well. We managed to scale and sell that business. I was just thinking, I wonder if there's something in that, having a very clear idea and making a well thought out direct approach. You've done it where you've gone, look what I've done, 50 million views with this dog. I could do that for you. It's a bit of an interesting hook.
Yeah.
I think too many people when they start a business literally put content out into the ether and just go, hopefully my ideal client's going to see that and contact me and wants to do business.
Yeah.
You're not realizing that the real magic, hard work or graft kind of goes on unseen or in the shadows. You're going, do you know what? I think I can do something with you.
I think I was really heightened to, like, my version of somebody's inbox was Steve's.
Yeah.
Like,
Busy.
really busy. So I kind of came at it thinking, well, if that's what people's inboxes are like,
I
I'm
need to stand
fucked.
out.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people don't. It's shit
Yeah,
messaging, and it does get lost in that inbox, I think. I think that's where the magic happened in our business. It was that combination of putting out good content that talks and attracts your ideal client, talking about things, problems in that industry. Again, was there a reason for my posts when I was doing Learning Heroes?
Yeah.
Yes, I was talking about how shitty learning was, problems, pay per head rather than unlimited subscription usage, whatever it might be. It was that content that would speak to my ideal client, but it was in the DMs actually contacting my ideal client with almost like a specialized, customized reason to be contacting them. Like, I could do X with you if you've got X, Y, Z problems, rather than just a generic copy paste type thing. So I think there's something in that.
We've done the standing out thing. We've had a lot of success with things that people say don't work anymore or is shit. We've had a lot of success with email. We've had a lot of success with postal. Yeah, because we've sent weird things through people's letterboxes, and we've sent people weird emails that they're more likely to open, but then with something of value inside. So it's exactly the same. But most channels and most things are saturated now. So kind of the need to stand out and be different and show them something different. Like you say, if you're landing in CEOs' inboxes that are just clogged full of shit, and you've probably got someone else sorting it out for them anyway, so that it's even harder to get that person to then pass that message on.
Yeah.
It's even more important to stand out and send them something that's of value and going to actually help them.
But I wonder if that's something in us, because we've all got businesses that others would deem successful, right? So, and you're saying that you think you could probably do something with both of us, personal brand wise. So, there must be something in us that separates us from those people that just don't really know what kind of content to post or how to attract, how to speak to people in DMs or whatever it might be.
It's just really like understanding your own personality, I think, and letting that be like the sole thing. And then I think from there, there's like a scale of.
And you can't learn that in a course, right? You couldn't learn that in downloading a PDF from the latest. Pick backgrounds.
I've personally worked with like a
influencer, right?
I work with like a bit of a. Not like a life coach, but I worked with a coach once to try, like, I'm just really quite interested in understanding myself more. Mm-hmm. And I worked with a coach to kind of understand, like, go through my life.
What is a life? Like, I've heard the term, and you see them all over the place. What do you do?
So the one that
you would need more than one.
It's not a therapist.
I could see them quitting.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
But it's almost like, you work with like a branding agency, and they're like, well, what are your values? Go through your story. What are the points that are interesting? All that kind of thing. Yeah. And that helped me figure out. I was trying to. I wasn't sure what I was trying to take to me doing anything in terms of like online or whatever. I wasn't sure what it was. And then I worked with her and I kind of started to understand myself a bit better. And then I felt like I got to a point where I was able to take a more narrowed in version of my own personality to the table, whereas I maybe wasn't before. And then I think from there, it's just like, how creative are you? Like, you're incredibly creative. So you've got like both personality and creativity scale way more than I have. So you'll stand out way more because you're not only somebody who stands out, but then you're doing something different from everyone else who stands out. It's almost like an added
stand
layer.
out for the wrong reasons.
I don't think you do. No, I think you say stuff like that, but no,
it's not the truth.
Which makes you start bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all.
So is it worth getting things like that? I mean, I know we're going off topic here. We're supposed to be talking about personal branding, but is it worth? Back to the dogs? Is it worth getting things like life coaches and things? Because Dean, my business partner's got a therapist at the minute, and he claims he's a changed man.
Yeah, I think everyone in business should have. Like, if you're a founder of a company, I think it should be compulsory for you to go to therapy every single week. Because I went this week and I had no idea that I was emotionally experiencing a situation and therefore bottlenecking me doing anything with it in business until I came out. And I'd have never, ever guessed going in. But the business impact of me sitting there for an hour and kind of unraveling those things really heavily impacted a big decision I was making in business. But if you'd have asked me going in, like, I actually went in being like, I could skip this week. I've not really got anything. And then within 5-10 minutes, it's
they'll find something when they're charging you £100 an hour.
Yeah.
If it's in you, we'll find it.
I don't know. It's like, I think you have a responsibility to, just try to mentally make sure that you're, I'm responsible for other people now. Yeah. So I kind of have a responsibility to take care of myself. But also from a business strategy point of view, some of the best, not the idea or the thinking, but some of the best understanding and clarity has come in those sessions on the business and the decisions that I'm going through and all that kind of thing. And also I don't understand my own, again, it's just giving yourself the understanding of you and then noticing it in business. So I'm someone who typically I'm a bit of a people pleaser. That can run wild in business and it cannot help your business, but it's you that's doing it and making those actions. You're actually letting other people in your team down by being a people pleaser too much in business.
Yeah, because you can do too much for some people, right? And it
exactly.
Your profits and stuff like that. Or someone becomes
but I wouldn't have
time trained.
I wouldn't have kind of like stepped back and understood it and gone, oh, I am like that, and I need to therefore just be cautious of it and act on it and things like that if I hadn't been in therapy.
Yeah. Question then, so if you had a life coach or whatever, I assume you'd get a life coach that has achieved something that you wanted to achieve, was further along in life. You wouldn't get like a 19, 20, 21-year-old life coach, right?
They exist.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think I don't want somebody who's like achieved what I'm trying to achieve, like a founder of Great Influence 10.0. I'm just looking for someone who's done the work, like their 10,000 hours on the frameworks, the theory, the this, the that I need to apply to me, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And taking that through then to the personal branding industry, you'd want someone that's built personal branding, has got experience in that industry, has done the hard yards, has done their 10,000 hours elsewhere, rather than someone that's built their personal brand in the last 3 months and is basically they're one page ahead of you in the
exactly.
In the book,
doesn't it? I can't believe it's a 21-year-old life coach. 21. I mean, you don't have the experience.
Is there anyone that you've worked with, or anybody that you have an example of, like a case study where you think they absolutely nailed their personal brand?
I think Ben Francis has done an unbelievable job at Gymshark.
Does he have a team behind him that do it?
He must do. The production quality is so good.
He's not doing his phone, is he?
I just like the fact that he was honest about, he stepped down as CEO of Gymshark at one point, and now he's taking it up again. And there was a period there for like 2-3 years where he was honest about where he was, and he also didn't do what he's doing now. He wasn't on social really for a period, and he publicly said, he was like, it's just not me. And it wouldn't have been him at that moment in time, but the pressure for him to do it must have been huge.
Yeah.
Because that was the moment where everyone was kind of exploding for the first time, and it would have been so easy for him to do it as the CEO or founder of Gymshark.
Spoke about Ben Francis on this before, and what I found really interesting, it's very different to a lot of people now, and I would say, I mean, I saw an interview where he was saying like they're like a 0.006% business, you know, how they've grown and scaled and stuff. So we're talking like ultra unicorn, ultra elite, you know, what they've actually done. But Gymshark was Gymshark before Ben Francis. A lot of brands now, they get themselves known first, and then you kind of know the business. I felt that Gymshark have done it the way around. People don't really recognize that now because Ben Francis is Ben Francis now.
Yeah.
But I would say that's only the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You knew Gymshark were 4 years ago, 5 years ago, before you really knew who Ben Francis was.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really good example. And in my mind, done it the right way round.
Yeah.
Gymshark was going to be successful even if no one knew who Ben Francis was.
What grew first then? What was it concentrating on growing social chain first, or did social chain grow on the back of Steve?
No. He was just the best marketing that we had. So I was marketing director for the first year of social chain. So it was my job to like social chain marketing, which wasn't Steve.
Yeah.
And at that first year, we got to the end of the year, we sat down and it was like, nothing has worked. Absolutely nothing. And I'm lucky to be in a job at this point. But at the same time, Steve in the first year was going and trying to win clients by speaking on stage. And every time he did that, it not only worked in getting clients, but it just, people started to talk about him.
Yeah.
So we sat down and we were like, that's how, because nothing else is working. And it was almost like he approached that from a sales point of view. And then we realized that it could be a marketing thing. So for the first year, it was all that. And Steve was doing he collabed with The Drum to do this series called Breaking Social. And his first video was about insight into how Snapchat works. And it was all that. And then I think it just quickly, the door of opportunity opened for it to be bigger. And he had a passion as well to.
But there was a business reason for doing these things, right? These were very deliberate actions to grow the business, right?
I think the best example that I've seen in recent years of someone who has utterly nailed it for business is George Heaton from Represent.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What was he do? What was Represent?
So I'm dressed head to toe in Represent.
Oh, it's clothing brand.
Pants, top, my entire wardrobe is Represent.
Right.
And
why? Because of the brand, or because you like the clothes?
I mean the clothes are great, but also George is, if you think of the person who wears Represent, he is like the aspirational version of that person, and he lives it super, he's just himself, and he shares that with the world. And it just turns out that it also helps him sell Represent by the bucket load.
So the only thing I'd take from that chat is maybe someone listening who's looking to grow their own following. It all sounds a bit bleak. You've either got the spark or you haven't. What do you say to that?
My personal take on it is you can do. There are two ways you can deal with it. Number one, people should be, in my opinion, concentrating nowadays on because personal brands become a little bit fashionable. Concentrating more on growing actual brands, because you can sell brands, not people. I've said it before. And also, you don't need one of these huge personal brands that everyone thinks you have. You don't need the thousands and thousands of likes. I know kind of we get decent engagement and stuff, but you don't need them. We've had clients that are getting 50 likes that hit the right people, that get the right number of leads, and they're able to grow their businesses and grow very successful businesses on the back of them. You don't have to be Mr. or Mrs. Popular online. That's not that. When did that become a business goal? Right? It's right for some people, and that's the truth of it, right? Not everyone's capable of doing it. Simple as that.
Like I say, everyone can leverage social media platforms to help them achieve business objectives, whatever those business objectives are. But I think the way of approaching it is just understanding first what that business objective that you're trying to achieve is, and then how do I, as a person who's a voice, so to speak, or using my platform, help achieve that. And everyone can do that, but I don't think it's achieved by copying what somebody else does. It's instead just taking influence from what other people do and then bringing that into you making whatever it is that you do. And the people that, like you say there, haven't got the million followers that do the best job of it, they're never going to go viral. but they just stand out for one reason or another. And I think it's because they understand why they're doing it. They understand the objectives of why they're doing it. And then they go, okay, should I do this or not? And the answer isn't always yes. The answer isn't always yes, start posting on social or anything like this. There might be a better way to achieve that business objective. But if that can help, they then understand who they are, take influence from what other people have done that they like, and then bring to the table something that when they press post, they can live with. That's my thing. I always think, if I press post on this, I try not to think what happens after. And if I've got to that point and it's something that I would share regardless of the performance of it, if it does great. If it doesn't, then yeah, there's an emotional thing that people will have to deal with when in putting themselves out there, which is understandable because it's your ego and things like that. And I think you just have to get over the fact that it doesn't have to be liked. You just have to want to say it and think it's the right thing to say. And that's all you can control.
Do you know what I've noticed about a lot of these new businesses now? There's a lot of focus, especially on LinkedIn, especially about company culture. And I know you got a lot of PR. Were you the best boss in the universe for taking your guys to Ibiza?
Apparently so.
And I did that post about people going to Ibiza, which caused a lot of hassle. But like, how important is culture? Who controls that narrative? How does it help the business?
My greatest memory of Social Chain was we went to Dubai once, and I've never left Sale more in my life. And the first place that I went to was Dubai, and I was like, this is unbelievable. And it was just a core memory for me in Social Chain. It was really early days. It was kind of like I'd had that experience. I wanted to give it something like that to our team. But the difference that I had to be really aware of was that, with Social Chain, we went to Ibiza. And when, not copying the exact same experience, when we went to Ibiza, we didn't really go out. We just went for a nice dinner or this kind of thing. And that felt really what our team wanted. Whereas I could have forced us all out for 3 days because I was, let's go to Ibiza, do this, do that. But the Social Chain and Great Influence thing is really interesting. Social Chain was my only ever real experience of company culture. And it was built from Steve and Dom. They went to the US and they went to this place where the founder of Bebo was. And it was just a really cool space. I don't know what was there, but I remember them coming back and kind of raving about it. And their logic was that they wouldn't work for someone else. They want to do their own thing. But they're like, well, how can we create something that we would want to turn up to every day with no preconceived idea of what company culture is even meant to mean? We didn't know what an agency was until about 9 months in. And they just built it from what they thought they would like. And then it kind of expanded from there, which is like this really nice trying to understand who you are or the people are. And Great Influence kind of started with me thinking, right, I think it should be this. Therefore, going to try and make it like this. And I remember having a meeting with the team and being like, what do you think we are as a team? Like, what are the words that you'd use, or this? And it was really different from what I'd have said. And I think at that point, we found like the collective alignment between what everyone had said at the time. And we were like, right, that's it moving forward. And when I think of the going to Ibiza, how we did it was reflective of how that team is and what they enjoy.
We've struggled with culture. I mean, if we took all our employees are that varied and that weird, if we took all ours to Ibiza, someone would die.
Yeah, I think
and that's simple as that.
So do you think culture then, your employees, it creates itself? You can throw some beanbags in, you can put up a basketball hoop.
We did this. We got a pool table from a pub. We've got a ping pong table. We've got a bar. We've got a terrace. We've got pub benches. We've got basketball hoop. We got 2 pogo sticks, genuine. And you know what? Nobody uses any of it really. I think Dean plays ping pong once a week. Yeah.
I think it's
why did you bring those things into your office? Because was it a perception that that's what people want?
Yeah, because I think in your head you think that's going to be fun. Don't get me wrong.
But why do you do that? It's actually seen other businesses doing it.
Yeah, probably.
10,000 hours.
It's probably the social chain effect.
10,000 hours. You've just not done your 10,000 hours yet. Same as me. I'm like, people expect us to have company culture figured out, and I've done no hours in doing it.
Well, didn't social chain buy a slide for the office?
One of the first things that came into the office was this massive slide, and probably at one point like made things a bit tricky financially for social chain. Had to get through that moment. But it's Dom actually, co-founder of social
a slide
chain.
that nearly cripples your business though. When you think about it, so then see what it went on
to.
Dom
actually says that slide was immensely integral to everything that followed, because it was almost like symbolistic of, that's how he speaks about it, like it was symbolistic of something bigger that was in the form of a slide that cost a lot of money. But I think like me trying to build a company culture now and also trying to be a leader in a team, I'm so immensely inexperienced. And there's 2 ways it's been really, really pointed out to me. In that, one, we hired a girl called Ellie who's ADHD autistic, and completely for the first time I thought, oh, everyone's not the same, which when you're managing people is a really important realization to make. And then the second thing is, I was on a call once with someone in my team who's a female, and after the call it was with 2 guys, and we just had the conversation, the 4 of us. And then after the call, she said they didn't say a word to me or look at me once. And that's not the first time that's happened. I'd have had no idea because I just thought the call went how it should.
Yeah.
But and I think this is like a problem as well, in that people that are running businesses now, especially with like LinkedIn and company culture being such a thing that you need to make important, it's almost like there's a thing of trying to have it figured out and make it right when you've got no experience in doing it and you're learning. And as a leader, this is the thing that I've learned. Again, I'm saying like as a leader, like I know, I've realized how small my worldview is, and that call, I'd have had no idea, but now I have an idea, and it has helped me understand that. Same with the neurodivergent thing, and I think there's a pressure on employers that are really at the start to have it figured out already. That's kind of like. It's fucking people up.
Who controls that narrative though? So if you've got a lot of staff there, is it what they post impacts on other people's perceived ideas about your company culture? Do you see what I mean? You can't really control that narrative as the owner of the business, can you?
Yeah, I think you have less control of it now that...
Which is kind of dangerous in many ways if you are trying to sort of
I think
control your own business story. It's your business. They're only passing through, right? A lot of the time. Especially at the start, they might be there 2 years. And it's like they kind of dictate what other people think.
Yeah.
Take Ellie as an example. She's got a big audience, right? Mm-hmm. So what she posts about what happens in your place could have a positive and negative effect, essentially, depending on what kind of content she puts out, which is mad because you kind of want to say, well, don't post that. But equally, that's the kind of thing that made you hire that person anyway.
I think you just have to control what you control. And I think COVID was a really big lesson in this, in that in hindsight, looking at that situation, you look at like the work from home thing. And I think there's a lot of business owners who want people to be in the office and have a culture, and it means something to them, and it makes it exciting, and that's been taken away. And I think if you'd have been more clear about who you are as a business, and kind of defined who you're for and who you're not, and then it's up to the people that work there to decide whether they are or not. And I think there's maybe a case of people are trying to appeal to everyone rather than figure out, again, it's like what's your personality as a business, and then people can decide whether they want to follow you or not as a personal brand or a business.
I think you guys do that really well. But sort of like I kind of know what I'm letting myself in for by looking at the way you conduct yourselves online, how you do your ads, your job ads, and so that you kind of know what you're getting with offended. Yeah. Do you know where I think people get it wrong? But they were seen as, say, like Brewdog, and there's like some marketing agencies out there that they show online that they've got this amazing culture, and it's almost like artificial culture that they've created. Yeah. But then when you go on Glassdoor and you see all the stuff that's actually anonymous threads by employees. It's clicky as fuck. It's only really that nice and that good for the 5, 6, 7, 8 original people that are in that business.
Yeah.
Very clicky. That's a lot more common than I think people know. I think take Brewdog as an example. Obviously, a lot of stuff's come out since.
Yeah.
To say a lot of the stuff that was coming out about Brewdog, about what it was really like to work there, was so far removed from the sort of culture that they were trying to promote. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A guy called Shaq, that was one of the early investors, Shakil Khan, early investor in Spotify. He came into Social Chain once and gave a talk. And he said that each stage of a business is an entirely different company. So 0 to 10 in terms of headcount, 0 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, so on and so forth. Entirely different businesses. And I think that the problem with that is that you don't get to wipe the slate clean and start again when it's the next phase of the business. And also the culture can take time to catch up to the new business that exists. And some people, he also said, he was like, some people will love the 0 to 10.
Yeah, that's me.
And they won't. I'm the same. Yeah. I loved Social Chain 0 to 10. After that, I really, really struggled. And he said some people will make the transition into the next one and then some won't.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much of that. You think like...
We've just done that. We've just done it. We've just gone from 10 to 14 people now.
Yeah.
And
but you'll naturally then break into we're the originals without even knowing it. I think you naturally go, well, we're the originals. And you're almost like, how you see things, how you live and breathe the brand is different to them. And in a weird way, there's some kind, I think, I might be wrong. This isn't an example saying offended is like this, but I'm just saying in general, there's almost a resentment between those two groups.
There is.
Like, well, you're coming in now riding our tails. We've built this thing. This means more to us. That group thinks, well, this is my business. How the fuck has she come along? And she's sort of like, she's come along. I put 4 years into this with being underpaid, underappreciated, working long hours. Now they're coming in saying, well, I want 32 days paid holiday a year. I always think that's when fractions start. And that's when you get almost like warring factions. But then on LinkedIn and stuff, it'd be like, oh, it's amazing to work here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah,
it becomes
blah.
very
we haven't found that yet, but we've been here a week.
Also, your expectations of the people who work for you are very different at that stage. The people that come in at 20 to 30 want, standard hours and all the culture that we've talked about, and the nice office environment. Not to 10 whose backs against the wall, we eat what we kill. It is very different.
Yeah. And then one person who couldn't transition from 0 to 10 into 10 to 25 has a bad experience and leaves a Glassdoor review and fucks you forever.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, they're the ones, I know this is going to sound like a really odd thing to say or a very honest thing to say. When you're starting a business, and especially a young business in marketing, you kind of survive by hook and by crook, right? A lot of the time. And you're all young, you're all like in your early to mid 20s. What you like to do on nights out and the sexual chemistry and tension between people and that things, that 0 to 10 has got a lot of stories on the people that have built that business. And that's what they always throw back, I think, whenever they do these reviews, even though they were knee deep in it themselves when they were in there.
So what are you saying? Get rid of them?
Get rid of them.
All right,
go back down to 10.
Go back down to 4.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? It's always that. And I always think whenever I see that, I think, you sly fuck, because you were exactly that. You were in Ibiza sniffing beak with that person. You know that happened. Now you're making out like, it's a toxic culture because they used to do this. Yeah, you would bang at it. But you're just pissed off now because you've been replaced by someone that's actually... Do you know what I mean? It's always that. So.
Yeah.
There's also a business quote that's something along the lines of the team your business needs is not necessarily the team you started with, and I think that's quite harsh as a business.
I think that includes the founders as well. After.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just as a random.
me at
Say with
Social Chain.
Gymshark, something's obviously happened at Gymshark recently. I don't know if it was investment or whatever, but it's almost like they've got to a stage now where maybe the guy that used to live in the room next to at uni isn't necessarily the best marketing director you're ever going to get. He was a good mate and you brought him all the way through, but now shit's got real. So. And I think that's when it can almost happen. Like, well, I've given this 5 years, 10 years, but that's great. But you've learned on the job. This guy's took Nike to this level. So who are Gymshark going to have?
Yeah.
Are they going to have John from Solihull? Or are they going to go and like, well, let's just go get fucking Nike's head of marketing or whatever. Do you see what I mean? And I think
it's a really good point.
And then do you lose your culture because of that? Yeah, it's a different culture now, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
what were some of the things when Learning Heroes was sold? The number of messages I got in that first sort of 6 months from old clients saying, it's not the same since you guys have left.
Yeah.
But that's because an American company owns it now. They've got a different way of marketing themselves. They've gone, let's increase the prices. Let's be really strict on the terms. But we were just like, oh, we're fucking making it up. Like, what do you want? Oh, yeah, we'll sort that out for you. Without like going, no, that's not in your agreement and stuff like that. So I think it's quite an interesting thing on culture.
Ash, I like to quote that I've seen of yours, which you could go a week without doing nothing as long as the timing was right when you do something. So it got us thinking about, is infrequent better than irrelevant when it comes to posting?
Yeah, so I think there's like people that have, Dan doesn't always post frequently, but when he does, it's always really good and it stands out. Genuinely. And then there's a guy called Harry Dry that runs Marketing Examples. He pops up maybe once every 6 months, but when he does, he kind of like grabs the attention of the moment. And I think it's just social media is like fast food culture, isn't it? Like everything, you've got to be constant, otherwise you're gonna, it's here today, gone tomorrow. It's all that kind of thing. And I've seen it before where people have done something, and even I've done I'm not anyone, and I've done a podcast like 3 years ago, and somebody 2 months ago messaged me and said, "Oh, I just watched your podcast on YouTube. I thought it was really good." And I'm like, that is mental. So yeah, I don't think, I just think there's a pressure to be there all the time. And like, I even feel it. And it's a constant like battle between, again, understanding what are the things that are external, putting pressure on you to do the things you're doing versus what do you want to do and what do you think is the best thing to do. And it's a constant battle for everyone between the two. But, I haven't met someone who's posted infrequently that's done it well, that has turned around and said, "Oh, I should post more." They might think, yeah, you get more out of it maybe. But you might also lose that.
Yeah.
When you turn up, it's always really good, and you lose the power of that.
I can't be, and I haven't actually seen anybody who can be that creative enough to make a piece of content bang 3 times, 4 times a day. You can't do it. You can give your thoughts, sure, but you can't be expecting huge numbers and a big conversation around it if on every single post. And I think that's, and also I'll tell you what it does as well, is that infrequency argument, particularly with what's called Harry Dry. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Right. It goes against this whole algorithm excuse that everyone comes out with on social media. Oh yeah, my content doesn't do well. I'm pretty sure the algorithm's against you. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned. I'm pretty sure I'm this. We get it all the time. It's like, no, it just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
If a guy can post every 6 months and it bang every time, he's just proved that argument wrong.
Yeah.
So
I imagine it's a case of there's no right or wrong with this.
Yeah, there's no...
do what you want.
Because there's another argument that, I've seen Justin Wells post about it, and his argument is just get on base every day talking about the same thing every single day, and you become known for it within your industry. Yeah. Certainly, say our business page, the I Am page, we just want to make sure we're talking about animations almost daily. So we're front of mind. Someone thinks of animations on LinkedIn. Yeah. Bang. But we can't be creative daily about our animations. Some of them are going to be just standard posts.
So my argument would be, you could still be front of mind, posting once a week and being creative. Yeah. I'm probably front of mind for most people when it comes to, controversial, edgy marketing, right? Well, most people probably put me in that list, but I don't have to post that much to be front of mind.
But does that require? I guess that requires talent. That requires talent. I'm not saying what we do isn't talented.
You guys are talented though. You guys have done plenty that blows up as well. I think this is I think you got it right in that there's no right answer.
Yeah, there is.
It's just that people going, this is how
3-4 times a day. Some days I don't post for like 3-4 days. It's just literally if I think something. Sometimes I actually get annoyed thinking, oh, I thought of something that was quite decent 30 minutes ago. I've thought of someone else now. I'm not going to manage to see that one through. The next one coming, do you know what I mean?
I guess surely Ash and Dan for this one, I guess if you've done paid PR for people, is there not an expectancy of how often you should pay if you're paying a monthly retainer and you don't do anything for them that month because you're like, you don't want to post that often, mate?
There is. No, we have to. There still has to be. This is the thing with the difference between me posting for myself and somebody paying me to do it. They're paying for a service. They're going to expect deliverables and deadlines because that's business. If it wasn't, I'd be Dr. Dre and I'd be doing whatever the fuck I want and producing music whenever the fuck I want. I'm not. Yeah. I've got a deadline. I've got deliverables that month, so I have to hit them. But we do make sure that the deliverables are reasonable.
Yeah.
So that my team aren't having to produce 3 posts a day because they're not going to be able to. And no one's got that much money.
There's no right or wrong. And I saw a tweet once that was like, Red Hot Chili Peppers have released something like 380 songs in their career, and only 10 have ever made like the Billboard charts. And it's like, you know, they've just put out 2 double albums this year, which is like 34 songs. But everyone still only really remembers Under the Bridge. And there's an argument for that, like, you know, put things out and then the one thing will kind of do really well, but then you're almost like keeping the creative thing going rather. And so, yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Again, I just think it comes back to works best for you.
One last question, Ash, just what's the best piece of advice you ever had around PR?
Steve is like, his level of thinking is just unbelievable on this whole thing. I think the whole thing of it, the thing to take away is just like, it's very easy to try copy what somebody else does, but you're never going to win long term in that. And I think time will tell. It'll show us that people that do that won't win. And instead it's like, take influence from other places and really try to figure out what you can bring to the table as like uniquely you as best as you can in that moment, and do that.
That's it for this episode. We're continuing the chat over in our private Slack group, where we'll be answering your specific questions about business, sales, marketing, and anything in between. If you want to join, you can sign up for free by clicking the link in the description. And finally, if you enjoyed the chat, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a like on this video.